Hi everyone and welcome back to another lesson from Korean Studio. My name is Kim Gi-hwan. So in today's lesson, we're going to learn all the different ways of referring to the titles that we use to refer to wife. And the inspiration for this lesson came from a drama that I watched recently called 나쁜 엄마. And I won't go into the drama details too much, but basically the setting of this drama is in the countryside. So it's sort of, and it's a farming community. So a lot of the people are sort of like the older characters, and their use of language is somewhat old-fashioned. And I remember a while ago, I created a vocabulary course, and in that course, I was teaching all the words that we would use to refer to different family members. And I made a lesson on the titles that we use to refer to the wife. And while I was creating all the list of words and phrases that we would use to refer to one's wife, I decided against teaching 2 or 3 terms because they're a little bit old-fashioned and it can actually be quite offensive to use these terms. So I decided to stick to the basics and leave out these sort of old-fashioned, somewhat offensive terms. But I was watching this drama and that's all they were using. They were constantly, and it was just like a normal thing. And obviously, you know, like people who are a little bit more old-fashioned, I don't think younger generation would use these words so frequently, but these are words that are used commonly in Korea. And I thought, well, actually, if that's the case, then I will make a lesson on it. And I will do a comprehensive lesson on teaching all the different sort of words that we use to refer to or to address one's wife or other people's wife or your wife. So we'll begin with the basic ones. The most common words that we use to refer to wife or to address someone's wife, or the words that refer to wife, is first we have wife, and the other one is 아내. And I think these 2 words are the most common words that we use to refer to wife and 아내. And then the other word that we have is 부인. And 부인 is a very formal and respectful term. So you could use it to refer to like the 사장님's wife, you know, the person sitting at the top of the tree. But you wouldn't use it to refer to like your friend's wife or even if someone's like 1 or 2 years older than you. Like that'd have to be, it's a very formal word. So whoever's wife that you're referring to, they have to have a much higher seniority than you. And then the other word that's commonly used is 처. 처 is a syllable that means wife. It can be used on its own, but it's also used in many other phrases that refer to wife. So for example, the wife's side of the family is 처가. It's also commonly referred to as, like, the wife's family's home is 처갓집. And when we combine 처가 and 집, we add 시옷, because in Korean sometimes when we make compound nouns, and these are nouns that are made by combining 2 nouns, we add 시옷 받침 to the end of the first noun. So it's like 처갓집. And another example, just to give you another example, the word for seaside is 바닷가. So we add 시옷 받침 to 바다 and then add 가 to form a compound noun. But this syllable 처 is also used in a lot of titles to refer to family members on the wife's side of the family. So as a man, as the husband, if I'm referring to my wife's younger brother, I would refer to him as 처남. Wife's older sister is 처형. And then wife's younger sister is 처제. Wife's older brother can be referred to as 처남, but we tend to, I think more common term is 형님. We just say 형님. But yeah, so this syllable 처 is also often used in various titles to refer to, there's a noise going on in the background. So it's used in various titles that refer to different family members on the wife's side of the family. And then there are these 3 terms that are a bit old-fashioned. I don't think the younger generation would use it as much. One of them is actually somewhat common. I think it's still relatively commonly used by everyone, and that's 집사람. 집 meaning home. 사람 means a person. Home person is a word we use to refer to wife. I know it's a bit of an old-fashioned term, but Korea has typically been a very patriarchal society, and it still is to a certain extent. I think society is still progressing and changing. But this term 집사람 is still relatively commonly used. I don't want to second guess how the younger generation feel about this. I think I belong more to the older generation as I'm over 40, but it is still somewhat of a common term that people use to refer to wife, 집사람. And then the next two are really old-fashioned, and I think some people might find it offensive to be referred to as wife with these terms, and I know that my wife would find it quite offensive. One of them is 마누라. Very old-fashioned, but I think the older generation in Korea, it's very old-fashioned term, but older generation would use it. And I think when I watched that drama, people would just use it like an everyday term. And I think so. It would be wrong of me just to say like, oh, it's just, it's an offense. But it's not offensive to certain generation of Koreans. They just use it as a term that refers to wife. And then the other one, which I think is quite offensive, and I think generally nowadays it's not commonly used. But again, in this drama, they were using it quite frequently, and that's 옆편내. I've never used 마누라 옆편내 to refer to my wife or anyone's wife. So I think they are somewhat of an offensive old term, but as I said, it's a word that's, the way we use these words is different between generations. And so in that particular drama, if you watch it, you will see different characters use these words 마누라 옆편내 to refer to their wives or other people's wives quite frequently. But yeah, I think it's good to be aware of it, that these terms exist. But as I said, I think 마누라 옆편내 are not common. You should never use these words to refer to someone's wife because they can be quite offensive. But I think it's just good to be aware that these terms exist. But yeah, hopefully, don't use these terms because they can be offensive. 마누라 옆편내. But if you want to see how these words are used, do go and have a watch of this drama called 나쁜 엄마. Okay, so in this lesson, we learned some useful words that we can use to refer to wife. And I hope that this was a useful and interesting lesson. That's it for today, and I'll soon see you again. Bye-bye.